Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Recently, I got an inquiry from a ClassicsToday.com reader that was really very, very thoughtful, and I was very interested in it, and I want to share it with you. The gentleman asked me about the prevalence of getting CDR recordings of physical product. That is, when you order CDs, instead of getting a pressed CD, you get one of those recordable CDs, a CD-ROM or a CD re-recordable thing. And you can tell what the difference is. You can tell sort of by looking at them. And it's very clear what they are. And sometimes they come very cheaply packaged with like minimal notes and stuff. And sometimes you get the full thing. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit with you, just to give you a sense of where it's coming from, where it's going, and what I think about it, because I think we're going to be encountering more of that. I really, really do. And on the whole, I think it's a good thing. The question in this particular case was, is it some kind of false advertising for a label to offer a CD, and what you get is not the normal pressed CD, but a CDR, because one of them is supposed to last longer than the other. So let me say categorically, I do not think it's false advertising, unless you ask them and they tell you something that's false. When you get a CD, there is no guarantee as to how long it's going to last or what type of CD it's going to be. That is caveat emptor. You simply have to go with the flow. But the advantage to these things is this. The advantage is that people who want physical product should be able to get physical product. And print on demand is so important because it allows record labels to keep their entire catalogs available and sell in very, very small quantities. Directly. They can sell directly and press it when someone orders it. So they don't have to keep stock. It doesn't cost them anything. They only incur the expense when someone actually gets a CD. And the technology is such now that it's quite possible with digitized booklets and all that stuff that you can get the CD, the original booklet and artwork and everything can be printed and packaged in a way which is almost identical to the professional product. Now, not everyone does it that way. Not everyone does it that way. But the first time I encountered those things, and it was a much more fallible technology then than it was now, was with archivemusic.com, which had a program with most of the major labels to produce CD-ROMs of tons and tons and tons of otherwise unavailable catalog. And they offered it on their websites, and some of them sold extremely well. That's how I got, for example, on CD, I remember most vividly, the Peter Serkin Schoenberg piano concerto with Seiji Ozawa, and coupled to the Beethoven piano concerto version of his violin concerto. It's a wonderful disc, fascinating to be able to get it, and it was a CD-ROM. It played fine, sounds fine. I still have it decades later. It sounds fine. It still plays fine. It hasn't rotted or anything like that. So I have no problem with it. But, I understand how people can be a little bit picky. But, one of the things that always puzzled me about compact disc sort of the discussion is that we took over naturally a lot of the discussion from LPs, which really had nothing to do with CDs. We talk about pressings. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, there were big differences in pressings from LPs. Like English pressings were much better than American pressings for Angel product or Japanese pressings. And the way they're packaged and whatnot and things like that really mattered. For CDs, not so much. A digit is a digit. I mean, it's a digit. It's a little byte. It's a byte. I mean, it doesn't matter how many. There's the same number of bytes as long as they play the same. It's the same. And I don't want all you technical people talking about Red Book standards and this, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about reproducing one thing to another. And, you could take an existing CD, any CD, and reproduce it exactly the same way with the same digibits. And, when CDs first came out, do you remember all the kookiness in audiophile magazines, like the Absolute Sound and all that? Remember, there were the gold discs that were supposed to be better because they were gold. I mean, all it is a beam of light bouncing off of a byte. What difference does it make what color the foil is? But there was the gold stuff, and then there was the magic markers Do you remember the magic markers where they were recommending that you take a black magic marker and a Sharpie, one of those, indelible black magic markers, and make like a black mark around the inside part where the thing plays? Because remember, CDs play from the inside out, not from the outside in. And you were supposed to make a black thing, and that was supposed to somehow make sure that you get more digi bits. I mean, I don't know what that was. It makes no sense, but there was that, and then there was, you tape things to them, and I mean, there's all this nonsense about how you could make your supposedly terrible sounding digital recordings sound better, and guarantee that your laser tracker thinger in your CD player would have more lasers or more trackers or more something. I mean, there was all this. It was all this really, old wives' tale mythology that was, some of which was applicable to LPs, because LPs were extremely fragile and easily damaged. And so there were all kinds of things, how to clean them and take care of them and do what you needed to do to keep them from disintegrating. Well, CDs do disintegrate. Remember the bronzing thing from the very, very beginning of the CD world, where they were pressed in the UK. There was a whole bunch of them that turned this horrible bronze color and then wouldn't play anymore. They disintegrated. That can happen. They can disintegrate. It is true. But they resolved that problem, and I don't think it's been an issue since. But I remember getting some bronze CDs, and I remember the original pressings. The original pressings for very first CDs, they were that light, thin foil thing with the digibits in them and covered in plastic. And some of these CDs, I could look at them and see it was like a piece of aluminum foil was just ripped. There were like pieces missing from the foil. I mean, there were quality control issues. There definitely were. But if they can do print on demand in an efficient and correct way, meaning you get basically the same product you would have gotten otherwise, boy, I am all for it. And I don't care whether it's a CDR or whatever. I mean, as long as it plays the way it's supposed to play, sounds the way it's supposed to sound, and lasts a goodly number of years without giving me any agita, I will feel I've gotten my money's worth. And, we talk about, we have a whole series on ripe for reissue and things that you can't get and all that. And if they can keep this stuff available in album form, boy, is that a good thing. I think it's just a great thing. And I encourage the industry to do it. And I encourage you folks not to worry about, whether or not you're getting a CDR or whether it was, remember, Japanese pressings or whatever. Just forget the LP mentality about it. Just get your digibits, as a physical thing, because albums are wonderful. Albums have thought behind them. It's not just because it's physical product. It isn't. This is not the argument between tracks versus, digital tracks and downloads versus albums. The album itself is a thing. And it has its own independent desirability and beauty and attractiveness and logic, and I'm all for them. So let the industry do these print-on-demand things. Let them move to that entirely if that's what it's going to take, and let it be available so we can all enjoy it and continue to talk about it until, like forever. Won't that be fun? So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.